the chase and the hunt, and I set the pace when I'm running. I always take what I want and I always give it 100. Don't need a bank, no I'm funded. Play the game like it's nothing. I'm always thankful for something. Don't take for granted, stay humble. Now wake up!
Welcome everybody to another episode of CorbinCenter, and as you know, I am your host, Darin Corbin. I'm the loudmouth from the Lakes area, and we have wrapped up Season 2, and this was always an interesting one. I knew when I signed off, I knew what I thought to myself was, oh boy, I am going to either eat my words or I'm going to look like Nostradamus, because I'm going to predict it, and we're going to see what exactly people thought on this one. But I wasn't totally right, and it takes a lot for me to admit that I was not correct. And that's okay, because I know deep down, look, I'm a passionate person, I get upset about things, but deep down inside, I want this team to succeed, and that's why we'll cover how I feel going into year 3. But first things first, you may have mentioned that I was very displeased with a lot of stuff with Welch Manor, and I thought maybe if you could pull it together, that would be the biggest thing, and I thought the playoffs would highly reflect whether his future with this team stays. And I think I kind of got proven on a couple things. Now, when they went into Week 17, they had one game left. It was against the Rams, and while on paper this game was great, it was because of the defense. Like, let's not get anything wrong there. The defense led by one Pro Bowler, Deuce Jones, which I'll get to. Welch Manor threw 3 interceptions. We talked about how interceptions killed that drive against the Broncos, why they lost at home on Fan Appreciation Day. It was because of interceptions. And he threw 3 more. The biggest thing is if you would have taken the 3 interceptions that the defense stole back, it evens out, but come on. I mean, again, in late night heroic fashion, you have Sturgis, Arvado Garza, comes through and has a great game at the end with 3 touchdowns. And again, I was kind of like, well, if this is what we're getting into, the biggest thing is we have to look at this playoffs and off season. And first of all, I don't agree with the awards really. Ultimately, due to the poor performance and maybe the focus of selfishness, Welch Manor does get best QB. I mean, he did put up some touchdown numbers, and definitely a lot of them were rushing. But he does get best QB, but nobody on this team ends up getting MVP, where last year that was because of Sturgis. And Sturgis doesn't even get it this year because he was seen less running possessions. He gets Offensive Player of the Year, he gets Best Running Back of the Year, but he does not get the MVP. That's normally a position player all the time that would get those. Alan Wynn ends up getting Best Offensive Lineman, and Greg, the head coach of the year. That's great. I mean, that's awesome. This team is still new, and he's done great things for him. And almost to a T, the Pro Bowl selections are almost the same. The offensive line makes it the whole way through. Rockwell makes it. Sturgis makes it. Deuce Jones, again, 2-time Pro Bowler. He makes it. But the main thing that I want to kind of address is this. The woes in the playoffs. Now, I need to kind of eat my words on this and say they get to the conference championship, which is great. They beat the Chiefs to get to the conference championship. This is 2 years in a row that they made it to the Final Four. That's great. This is a new team. This is a young team they're going to build. Maybe I was putting a little too much on Welch Manor, but when I saw how he played against Kansas City, the final drive, I mean, Kansas City was up the majority of the game, and then it got to the final drive, and with 4 seconds left, it was a pass to Nelson that got them in and put them up 13-10. That's as lucky as it comes, and it should never have gotten to that. And it was at that moment that I knew that they were not going to get past the Patriots in the AFC conference game. I knew that was not going to happen. And of course, knocked out again. This time not by the Broncos, which is fine. I don't even think the Broncos made the playoffs, which is even kind of more hilarious of the loss and how crucial that was. They didn't even lose to a playoff team. They just got knocked out. But I'm very aware of this playoff performance definitely reflects the future of this team, and nothing was more important than when we started looking at the new additions. Now, first of all, one thing that happened right away to get some new draft picks, and this was kind of inkling number one that I had, Luther Murray, the backup quarterback. Remember, he came in, he didn't really do much this year. He threw 2 interceptions himself. He did not do himself any favor in the Broncos. Well, he got traded to the Steelers for a 3rd, 4th, and 6th round pick, which kind of helped everything bump up a little bit there. So we got more draft capital, which is good. And remember, Cedar Rapids does have the 2nd overall pick and the 5th overall pick in this draft. Now, before leading into this, whose contracts were up or who was not eligible were cornerbacks and the right ends. And Stokes would have been great to sign, and they did re-sign cornerback Chris Williams. I mean, like, probably one of the bigger contracts that they've signed, but at least to get him for another year. They also made a couple drafts usage. Now let's look at who they get. And nothing is more telling on where they're going in the future than this. 2nd overall pick, quarterback, Ponzai Cucini. Okay, so that's pretty obvious. We get rid of our quarterbacks, they go. We still have Welch Manor, he's under contract for 2 years, but now we got a new rookie upstart. Said he had the best arm in the entire draft. Unbelievable arm, and had the scrambling ability of Tom Brady. Those are high praises. They also filled that spot with Benny Benson, the right end. Stokes out, Benny Benson in. That's okay. But then in the 2nd round, they draft another very solid Tyson T. Romeo. Another solid quarterback. Wide receiver, Defferty Kahufel comes in. They already have a lot of wide receivers. Okay, that's whatever. I mean, look, getting a young wide receiver in the draft is good. We've seen the injuries happen. They get Ripley Moose at right end to back up, so both of those positions are filled. And then they get the cornerback that they need. They re-sign Chris Williams, so they have that. Now they get this young cornerback, Lamlake Frankenfield. Now, again, they're filling holes that they needed, and they got 2 more cornerbacks. Now, I know what you're thinking is on this team, look at what we have. They signed 2 cornerbacks. They get one in the draft. Clearly, they are expecting cornerbacks to leave this team. I think Chris Williams is done after next year, unless he has a Pro Bowl year. But apparently, the only Pro Bowl selection for the cornerback position, or defense at all, is Deuce Jones. So maybe they're building around him. But William Springs and Hugh Wright-Slope are the 2 cornerbacks that they pick up. They have them. And then when I thought we were all said and done, of course, we get through the preseason, and we lose one of the cornerbacks, and the Pro Bowl quarterback, Deuce Jones. So it's probably a great idea that they had picked up a couple guys. Now, here was a surprising move that a lot of people were kind of shocked about, but it's definitely to open up some young players. They traded away Rich Coffey, wide receiver Rich Coffey, and a 5th and 6th round pick. And that is for the Bengals rookie wide receiver, Lawson Pecker. Very fast guy. He's fast. And why would you trade away Rich? Well, it makes sense in the long run. Rich was out all last year, out for the season. He missed a lot of playing time. He was never a factor on this team. But Luka has stepped up. Nelson stepped up. I'm pretty positive Des Anderson is done after this. But you have a fast squad, and now they're in the 3rd and 4th hole. You don't really need Rich. They also signed because last year's top pick, Ijabante, is out 7 weeks. He's out half the season. So they signed Donovan Bennett, 1-year deal, just to see how well he would do. And then they signed another wide receiver who's fairly fast, but his big asset is kick returns. And that was Stephen Gray. Now, I thought it was very interesting because the injuries definitely played a factor in here, but look, no farther than, okay, so they could have traded, so this is what I get all the time. Darin, if they didn't trade Welch Manor, then why do you think that his season is done? It's cap room and cap penalties. He still has 2 years on his deal, so you trade him, you're facing $4 million in cap penalties. But you let him get through this season, you have these 2 fight over position battles and do the backups. Well, what happens? Now next year, maybe you can trade Welch Manor, and he's going to have high value. And also, there is a lot. I mean, if you look ahead, this season could be the last for a lot of the talent. And if you build up, in general, you build up your draft capital, this is the year to do it. You could get multiple picks for Welch Manor. You could. And you could still, let's just say that Cucini is ready to go, ready to lead this team. Now, it could shock you. What if this lights a fire under Welch Manor and he ends up taking them to the Super Bowl? But I will say right now that anything less than if they fall short of the conference championship, I see Welch Manor out and I see a new future in. Again, hold me to it. But let's see how this season goes. Let's see how season 3 is. I'm optimistic for Cedar Rapids Fusion. Hopefully, we have a little bit more control on this one, and we have the same guys stepping up. We are seeing stars emerge. Let's see how well we follow in. And if this defense stays solid, this should be a great year. But what is the goal? What's the end game? And how's the future looking for this team? We will find out. So stay tuned for more Corbin Center.
Don't stay.